Hey, welcome to the Prep Huddle, everybody. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Jeff Johnson and Jeff Linder, ready to talk a little bit about high school on the best dang high school football podcast in Eastern Iowa, made up of three multimedia journalist ones that you'll ever going to see. As you can see behind me here, obviously, week 2 in the books. Looking forward to week 3 here with some games going forward. But guys, before we kind of get into the past and the present, kind of want to start talking about some hot button topics, I guess you could call it. And we'll lead off this week's podcast with the name, image, likeness issue in high school sports, and it's now become a thing in Iowa. The Iowa High School Athletic Association announced, what was it, 2 weeks ago now, or at least a couple of weeks, that that's allowable for prep athletes, as long as it doesn't include high school uniforms or references or anything like that, correct? As long as it's not as an enticement to attend a certain school or some type of reward in that fashion. Guys, I guess, what are your initial reactions to the news that the NIL is now in Iowa high school athletics? Because the girls' union, we should say the girls' union is actually having the same, they have the same policy as well.
Kidding said, it's always been allowed, but the thing that they put out there a couple weeks ago was just kind of guidance as far as what can be done, what can't be done, just so there aren't any big secrets later that or any big surprises later that might come back to bite somebody. My first response was just really disgust, but the more I think about it, I'm not sure it's going to be a big deal, as long as the guidance holds through. We'll see. I don't see it being a major factor, as long as one thing that people are afraid of is it'll draw somebody from school X to school Y, and if that happens, then obviously then I'll change my tune.
JJ,
I think I'm with Jeff on this. Wait and see how this works, and how many kids maybe take advantage of this. And like Jeff, I think the one thing that worries me the most is someone that maybe I don't want to say affiliated, because they're not officially, but someone whose kid maybe plays for school A, and owns a business, tell somebody from school B, hey, if you come over and play with my boy and others, or girl or whatever, I'll put you on you can be like a sponsor or something for my business, or we'll advertise that way or whatever. So, but yeah, I mean, the more I got thinking about it, I think it's good that it's being addressed now by both the girls and the boys union association, because it was inevitable, right, guys, that this was going to come up, and this was going to be something that was going to be for real. And unlike college, maybe, where it kind of just mushroomed with no real guidance, I think that I think the high school associations that represent the state here just kind of trying to get out in front of it, and I guess that's a good thing. So, KJ, what do you think?
Well, first off, I was really surprised. Linder, you said that this has always been an option for high school athletes?
That's what some of the officials said.
Really?
I
was not aware of that.
Yeah, could say Ben Keeter. I mean, he's the one that pops into my name. Could he run a camp and have kids pay him $50 to be a part of his camp? I guess so, and I guess he always could. And I didn't know that, but that's the scenario that comes to my mind first.
I guess the one thing that I don't think it's the athletes that are going to be the ones that get really distracted, or I think it's going to be parents that are going to think, oh, hey, I'll be able to cash in on this. I reference a story about, I believe they're two twin brothers in Ohio, were like the top ranked second grade basketball players in the country, whose dad is already taking them around from showcase to showcase and stuff like that as second and third graders or whatever. And he specifically says, we're going to cash in on this NIL stuff. They're in second grade.
Yeah.
That's exploitation.
And their slogan is "Born to Go Pro."
That's exploitation. It's going to take overzealous parents to a whole new level. The other thing that I think is a concern to me, you guys mentioned parents who might own a business, sway that. Let's be honest, club stuff is not a pure industry when it comes to club sports outside of high school. And there are coaches that kind of delve into their varsity programs and club sports where they play both sides of the fence there. Who's to say that, indirectly, hey, my club's having a camp. You can come and be part of that and be be one of my instructors for the camp and make $250. With kind of the unspoken, but you got to transfer to my school to where I'm coaching.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Could happen.
It's open for anybody, but you kind of notice that the kids in the club from one certain school are the ones that are reaping the benefits. I could see that being a way to try to pressure somebody or entice them without technically enticing them to transfer.
Would that be legal? I don't know. I don't know where that falls in the good, bad, and the ugly of this thing.
Probably, you can always, it's probably not illegal for a parent to tell somebody, hey, you know what? So your son would be a perfect fit at this school, come play with Junior.
Yeah.
It's a parent acted on their own, just mentioning it. That's not recruiting. It's not necessarily against, nothing that the school or coaches have done. We've heard that all the time. Coaches say, hey, I'm not going to tell somebody, hey, go get that kid. But if parents do that and the kid comes and jumps through all the hoops and is eligible, then I'm not going to turn them away. Well, I think we just opened up another portal for that to be, to be used. But we'll see.
A lot of dirty stuff that happens anyway.
Yeah.
And doesn't even have anything to do with money.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's true. But I really think the part of this whole NIL situation that could get ugly, I think, is from the parent's standpoint. And, trying to squeeze whatever they can from their kids' talent outside of just the normal scholarship and recognition. You know what I mean?
I think to use KJ's line, I'm not sure which person I want to punch in the neck more, whether it be that that second grade parent from Ohio or the person who's ranking second graders as far as ability. So
yeah. No,
you know.
I hear that. We see wrestling rankings that all of a sudden are like peewee rankings and stuff like that. It's like, come on, man. Really? I understand you think you're generating interest in the sport or whatever, but you're delving into some dirty stuff there when you're starting to extend that down to somebody as young as,
I think if you're going to put those rankings out, you should be forced to post those rankings 10 years later and see, and with showing people that 8 of those top 10 kids that I ranked 10 years ago are no longer playing sports.
Yeah. No, you see it at high school all the time, even from junior high to high school, kids that are world beaters in 7th and 8th grade aren't even playing by the time their senior year comes around. So
yeah, when you're young, it's just a race to see who reaches puberty first.
that is a perfect way to describe it. So yeah, so we'll see where this ventures. I mean, I know we have a 4 down segment that we're starting to run in this week. You can find that at thegazette.com. But one of the questions we have, if anybody benefits, what type of what athletes could. Linder, you made reference to it. Ben Keeter, who became a world champ this last summer, multi-sport athlete for Iowa City High. That's somebody that you think is at the level where he might be able to benefit from it. JJ, I think you're the one that mentioned Caden Proctor from Southeast Polk, who is a high-level recruit committed to the University of Iowa, which, I think those are the exceptions, I think, that are going to be out there with this new, well, it's not new, obviously, but with the NIL opportunities.
And one thing that I think it was Aaron Stecker brought up, it's not just the kids that are the elite athletes that people are going to pursue. It's the people that have a big social media following. It's the people with the big Instagram and TikTok accounts. Those are the ones that are going to get targeted.
Social media influencer.
Oh God.
That's the new thing, right?
Yeah. I got an email saying, hey, this is a great sports opportunity. Sports influencers. Okay, I'm aware of social media influencers and stuff like that. Now there are sports influencers, which made me shudder. And of course, I deleted the email. So that tells you what I think of that.
Good for you.
But anyway, so let's look back at last week. There's some big games that involved area teams and some really don't want to say eye-popping, but really notable outcomes, I think, whether it was an upset, streak snap, last-second victory. Let's start with the Mount Vernon Solon game. Mount Vernon Solon, that rivalry, I think Solon had won was it 19 or 20? 19 straight wins, looking for number 20. Got up 7-0 in the first quarter. But Mount Vernon outscored them 17-7 the last 3 quarters, 14-7 in the second half to pull off the 17-14 victory over the Spartans and get back in the win column in that series.
Good for the rivalry, right?
It makes it a rivalry again.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
It really, it hadn't been for, probably 5 to 10 years just because it had been so lopsided. And most of those games had been lopsided, but, good for Mount Vernon. And you could just, I saw the video of the kids storming the visitors storming the field. Some guy running out with a flag and ended up on the Solon mascot in the middle of the field, emblem or whatever it is. But this rivalry needed that. And I'm sure the kids from Solon didn't like it, but it's good for the rivalry, and it'll that'll provide a lot of motivation for Solon for the rest of the year. And they got to play each other again next year. So we'll see what happens next year.
Okay, so I'm gonna not really eating crow here, right? But I'm gonna say this: I am very, very critical of coaches and players where they start playing the "nobody believed we could do it" card and stuff like that, because a lot of times it's just simply not true. All right, Mount Vernon, here's your pass. I don't know if there's anybody that thought you were going to come away with a win outside of people wearing maroon and white that night. Use that tag all week long if you like. Send it to me on Twitter at KJ Pilcher. Speak it loud and proud, because if there's if there was a game or a team that probably had that, could use that phrase, nobody believed in us, nobody thought we were going to win this game except for us, I think it was Mount Vernon, and kudos to them for coming away with a big win, because they're 2-0 now, and after that win against Solon, I know they took a spot in my top 5. I was pretty impressed with them and gave them an instant boost.
Yeah, they go from unranked to number 5 in Class 2A, and yeah, go ahead and use that right now, Mount Vernon. I just about used that in my Survivor game last week. I almost took Solon. So, yeah, I didn't see that coming. Good for them. But you can't use that slogan next week when you play Tipton on Friday.
No, that's true. That's true. Speaking of another kind of streak snapper, Williamsburg went to Van Meter in a battle of two highly ranked teams, Williamsburg in 2A, Van Meter in 1A. Williamsburg comes away with a victory there, snapping Van Meter's 60-game regular season win streak. JJ, we saw the Raiders dominant week 1 against Regina, and then followed that up with a big win at Van Meter. What are your thoughts about Williamsburg's start here and that big win?
First of all, the pictures I saw, Van Meter's got one nice dang scoreboard at their stadium. I think it was somebody from Williamsburg just took a picture of the final score, and that thing was almost nicer than what you got at Kingston Stadium out here. So I guess when you win, you can enjoy the spoils, right? But yeah, just a great job, and a great job defensively. I think Williamsburg here was limited Van Meter to a little over 100 yards, 119 on the ground, and only 15 yards passing. So Jeff said you saw on the first week. I mean, this is a very, very quick and athletic team, and obviously played a great game defensively. This was a defensive struggle because you look at it, and Williamsburg only had 175 or so yards offensively. So not an upset. When you look at one school being bigger than the other class wise, but certainly another really, really good win and a statement win for Williamsburg, no doubt.
Linder, you saw him week 1. Were you surprised by them getting a win there at Van Meter? And I know there's some other strong teams in 2A, but does this put Williamsburg as a strong title contender if they weren't considered that already?
Yeah, no, I wasn't surprised. I honestly thought they would win last week. I think they'll win this week. I think they're going to go into district play 3-0. I think they're really good, but to say they're the favorite right now, oh boy, OABCIG is really good. Central Line, George Little Rock's really good. I would say those are the top 3. Certainly, I'm not sure which order they'll end up when when the shooting match is over in November. But those are the top three, and there might be a little gap between those three and everybody else.
Kind of interesting. Carson Hudapole, I want to say 2 years ago, was a sophomore tailback for Williamsburg. Now serving as their quarterback as a senior. I believe he had a knee injury too in between then and now, but kind of interesting to see him now under center for the Raiders.
Number 24, baby. You gotta love quarterbacks wearing number 24, right?
Right. For sure. And as you mentioned, Solon and Williamsburg face each other. Another game that kind of was on the radar there as far as being a possible good matchup. Linder, you're down at Linn-Mar for the game at Iowa City Liberty. Liberty 2-0. They kind of pulled away late, didn't they?
No, they jumped all over Linn-Mar early.
Okay.
25-0 at halftime.
Oh, my bad.
No, that's fine. And Graham Beckman, boy, he can throw the ball. He's got some really good receivers. He's got some speed on the outside. He's got a really good slot guy, and Christian Barney. And I think he had about 230, 250 yards passing by halftime. It was 25-0, but both teams were a lot different in the second half. We took the foot off the gas a little bit. Linn-Mar showed a lot of guts coming out. They got within 25-14 and had the ball with a chance to get closer, but Liberty was able to stiffen up and stop them and win by that final score of 25-14. But Liberty in the first half, they looked like world beaters.
And of course, JJ, you saw him in week 1. There's we might talk about some of our top teams regardless of class here in a little bit too, but where do you see Liberty ranking? I mean, obviously big win against City High. They continue that against Linn-Mar. Where do you see Liberty kind of fitting when it comes to that hierarchy of teams in Eastern Iowa?
Yeah, right up there with I think 4A is really good, boys. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that it might be the best class, top to bottom when it comes to the top 10 teams. And I mean, so you got to rank them up there with like your Xavier and, Waverly, Shell Rock and, schools like that. And I think what really impressed me, guys, was, what an incredible emotional victory last week or the week prior, in the clash at Kinnick against Iowa City High, ripe for a letdown, right? Well, there was no letdown because, like Jeff said, the Lightning came right back out and ran to a 25-0 lead. So that's a credit to them. That's a credit to the coaches for making sure there was no letdown. And yeah, for sure. I love Graham Beckman and what I saw from him. Jeff, I think you'd agree. I think he's a really good quarterback and, have some really good receivers, multiple receivers to go to. And this is a legit football team, no question.
JJ talked about the top 4A teams. I'm just going to go through our list of rankings and, I'll go all the way down to 10. Here's our top 10 and 4A. Lewis Central, Waverly, Indianola, Bondurant Farrar, Xavier, Liberty, Norwalk, North Scott, Wash, and Lamar's at 10. Lamar's, which beat Sergeant Bluff Luton in the first week, we have 10. That's 10 deep, really, really good teams right now.
Yeah. Yeah, when you think about North Scott being what, 7th or 8th on that list, yeah. that's saying a lot about the depth of quality teams.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, hey, JJ, speaking of a 4A team, and we'll stick with you. You went out and watched Cedar Rapids, Washington, and Marion. Washington improved to 2-0, leading into next week's game this week's game against Kennedy. But Washington with another dominant performance.
Yeah, and probably a little better gauge, right, KJ? This or last week. And that's not, I'm not trying to denigrate Jefferson, obviously, or anything, but we all know the situation that's going on there right now with the
Sure.
rebuilding and so many young players playing and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it was. I love the defense. The defense, you're throwing out. In the secondary, you got a D1 kid, Miles Thompson at corner, and Michael Blank at the other corner, who's a legit player. And Watts McBride, who's probably a Division I player when it's all said and done. He's a safety, and just a really good defense. And I think what Coach Maurice Blue was pleased with was the improvement in the offensive line. And again, KJ, I think that was in your story on Chase Mahoney, who's another baller. Man, that kid can play. 3 touchdowns so far in 2 games, and he hasn't had any offensive touches. So that's not bad. 2 pick sixes. But yeah, the offensive line was better last week, and they ran the ball a little bit. Made a lot of mistakes still, like penalties and things like that. And 2 quarterbacks, as that I don't know. I'm not real big on that. I always kind of think that, when you have 2 quarterbacks, I don't know if you have any, but I mean, they're 2 capable kids, and that's kind of the thing. And we'll see if one separates from the other as they go along. But really good defensive effort. And Marion, I give Marion credit. They know what their best player is Alex Mota, and they're trying to find ways to make him the most effective. And he started at receiver. In week 1, I think only had a couple of catches. So, Coach Joyner just said, all right, well, we're going to throw you in the backfield as a running back. So a lot more touches, had threw a big, backward pass or double pass, whatever you want to call it, that set up the first touchdown, and caught a long pass for their other touchdown. So, we'll see as we go along. As we mentioned, I think last week, guys, Marion's got a really tough schedule. Yes. And, that continues this week with Benton Community, which is a top 10 team. So, yeah, but it was a good game, and real good game, competitive game for a half. And Washington just kind of pulled away there in the second
half. A few other kind of results that stand out. Prairie bounced back from its opening loss to PV and beat Dubuque Senior, I believe, 40-20. They face Cedar Falls here next week. Kennedy handled Bettendorf, if I remember correctly. They're 2-0. West Central 3-0 for, I can't remember what you said, JJ, first time since I want to say in 15 years or even maybe longer. And of course they did that after naming the field after Steve Milner, right?
I guess they kind of knew what they were doing, right? So yeah, no, I think it's either 12 or 13 was the year the last time they were 3-0, and 51 years, boys. Holy cow. Full respect, Coach Milner. I mean, that's shaping a lot of young men's lives, man.
One other thing I want to point out too, just how tough the 3A teams that we had in our rankings last week had it. Maybe that's a bad sign on our rankings, but or it could just be the tough competition that they played last week. We already mentioned Solon lost to Mount Vernon. Solon, I believe, was our number 2 team in 3A last week. Our 3A number 5 Assumption lost to 2A number 6 Wahlert, who comes to Xavier here next week, or this week. I got to get out of that habit. Xavier dominated against West Delaware, scoring on lightning quick drives throughout the game. There in a blowout. But number 5 Nevada lost to 2A number 4 West Marshall, and then Sergeant Bluff Luton, I believe, is 0-2 now. They lost to 2A number 2 Central Lyon, who I believe has a big game against West Sioux this week. So some pod knots put on the old 3A ranked teams' heads in week 2. Who's your most surprising 0-2 team, most surprising 2-0 team so far.
Jeff, you want to handle that one first?
Yeah, I would say my most surprising 0-2 team is probably West Delaware. Always a really good program. And I still think they're going to have a good team this year. But I would say that's a little bit of a surprise for me. And I guess in that very same vein, probably my most surprising 2-0 team around here is probably Waller. And I think we're going to learn a lot about Waller this week when they come to Saints Field.
I'm going to go. Pella and Winterset are both 0-2, and Fort Dodge. And I think we had in our rankings, I know we had Winterset and Fort Dodge in the preseason rankings, right? In our top 10s.
Yeah.
So there's a couple off the top of my head. And how about Des Moines North boys? 2-0. I mean, this is a program that struggles perennially. And I know it hasn't been the toughest first two opponents, but we're talking about a school that, when was the last time North won 2 games? To be quite honest with you, in a season.
It's been a long time. They actually 2-1. They had a loss to get to Dallas Center Grimes in week 0. But
I think that was a scrimmage, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll leverage that. Yeah, they have North has that listed as a scrimmage. So
okay. Yeah, so 2-0. They've got some more winnable games on their schedule. They still play Ottumwa, they still play Marshalltown. They've got Sioux City North this week. Maybe, is it too early to say maybe winning season?
2-0, good for you guys, Polar Bears. Keep it going.
For me, neither one of these two teams are kind of in the circulation area that we normally cover, but Waller being 2-0, they open with West Delaware and Assumption. That's kind of a surprise. And like you said, Linder, this week will be a really strong barometer on where Waller's at when they face Xavier. Both of them had blowout wins over West Delaware. So we'll see. Another 2-0 team that surprised me is Ottumwa. Ottumwa being 2-0, that at the beginning of the year, I was popping off about how maybe that was a game that Jefferson could steal later in the season as a win. Doesn't look like it right now. I'd say kind of one of the surprising 0-2 teams, Sigourney Keota. They've had a really good run. They've graduated, a lot of talent, but to see them at 0-2, a little bit of a shocker. So I think that's kind of a surprise, even though, like I said, they did graduate some really talented players. So they might be kind of in a rebuild.
I think it was week 1 they lost to Durant. And I know Durant's got a really, really good running back in the DeLong kid. I think he's ran for a ton of yards last year. I don't know where he's at this year, but I hear he's just really, really good back.
Yep. Durant's 2-0.
Yeah. They have Northeast coming up this week, I believe, too. So we'll see if that continues. At one time we used to give out game balls and stuff during our podcast. I just throw this out there. Do you have any players that really kind of a player of the week for you? If not, I know one kind of stood out to me a little bit. But do you guys have anybody that really kind of caught your attention with their week 2 performance?
I'm going to go. No, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
From the game I saw, I can't speak for everybody but Graham Beckman was super in Liberty's win over Linn-Mar on Friday. Sorry to interrupt there, JJ.
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to go Evan Kearney from Iowa Valley. I think he had 9 touchdowns combined in its win. It's got 22 touchdowns in 3 games. And I know it's 8 player and all that, but still, that's a lot of touchdowns. And, talking to the BGM coach last week, they're saying how legit of a player Evan Kearney is. So he gets my game ball.
I was really impressed with Michael Cunningham for Xavier against West Delaware. I think I think Xavier's a lot more explosive than they have been in recent years. So he's kind of a honorable mention for me. The one that really kind of stood out looking through kind of the performances, Brady Erickson of Mount Vernon, receiver, kind of, I don't know, the numbers kind of reminded me of Connor Herman's production a little bit. Of course, we know how good he was for Mount Vernon and then going up to South Dakota. But Brady Erickson had 11 catches for 126 yards and a touchdown against Solon. So doing that against a really, really good team to boot. 11 catches in a game, ranks number 1 in Class 3A, and his 126 receiving yards in a game ranks number 4. And it's not like Mount Vernon was disguising anything or being deceptive, because they went to him a lot. He ended up pulling in 126 of Joey Romberg's 206 yards, or accounting for that many yards. So over half of his passing yards went to Erickson, and exactly half of his completions, 22 completions, went to Erickson. So they went to him a lot, and he responded and put up a big game and a big win. So let's move on to this coming up week. Let's just touch on. I'm gonna list some of the games that kind of stand out to me. Viewers can go to thegazette.com and check out the capsules that Jeff Linder did on some of the big matchups for this week. Always one of the more thorough guides to the upcoming games that you're going to find. We've got unbeaten Cedar Rapids Kennedy, Cedar Rapids Washington facing off at Kingston on Friday. Linn-Mar will host Pleasant Valley at Cedar Rapids Prairie. In case you didn't know, Linn-Mar still getting their turf situation taken care of. But if you look on Twitter, Linn-Mar Athletics account tweeted a picture of it, and it's coming along really well, and it looks pretty sharp. But Linn-Mar and PV at Prairie. Speaking of Prairie, they're 1-1 now after a 3-touchdown performance from Cale Sullivan, and I think 180 plus yards from Mikkel Taylor against Dubuque Senior. They had the Cedar Falls, who were 2-0. Then you've got Solon at Williamsburg, which happens to be the game I'll be covering. Solon 1-1, Williamsburg 2-0. You've got the Little Hawk, Little Cyclone battle at City High. 1-1 Little Hawks host 2-0 Ames, which I think is kind of interesting. Ames 2-0. You got Waller and Xavier, both teams 2-0. Xavier's senior night. Waller coming off a big win against Assumption. One that I think is sneaky good here. Monticello and Beckman. Monticello 1-1 at Beckman 2-0. You got Mac Valley and West Branch, both undefeated. Mid Prairie 2-0 after one of those wins coming against Sigourney Keota, who we talked about. At Iowa City Regina 1-1, which bounced back with a big win over West Liberty after dropping the opener to Williamsburg. Benton Community 2-0 at Marion, looking for their first win. And then Iowa City West 1-1 hosts Dubuque Hempstead. First off, guys, give me a game or two that you think kind of lead the bunch here, and let me know where you guys are going to be Friday night with your coverage.
I don't even know where to start. I mean, Solon Williamsburg's intriguing, especially after the loss from Solon last week. Like you said, KJ, Monticello Beckman is a sneaky good game, and Wallert and Xavier, how really good is Wallert, Kennedy and Washington, obviously always. Can Linn-Mar play with Pleasant Valley? So many questions. And I'll just throw one out there in statewide. Ankeny and Dowling play this week as well. So a couple of top 5 teams. And sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, I would just mirror what you said. I'll be at Kingston for Kennedy Wash. Looking forward to seeing both of those teams for the first time. Solon Williamsburg will be a great game. Wallert Xavier, we talked about that a lot. A week ago, I would have thought maybe Beckman would be a fairly heavy favorite against Monticello, but it looks like that might be more competitive now, since I think it was Anamosa played Beckman pretty close last week. We'll find out a lot about Maquoketa Valley this week. Can they stay with West Branch? And I think Mid Prairie Regina could be a decent ball game.
Oh, I thought it was kind of interesting looking at your capsules, Lindy. Mac Valley, a 1-win team last year.
Yeah.
And now they're already 2-0. So certainly a team that's rebounded and off to a really good start so far with convincing wins over North Cedar and South Winneshiek.
Yeah, the South Wind win really surprised me, especially as big of a margin as that was. So I think that really kind of legitimizes Maquoketa Valley quite a bit.
Lance McShane, guys, that's he's been their big dog, their big horse. He's got almost 500 yards rushing in the first 2 games and 9 touchdowns. So and I believe he was hurt last year, didn't play. So
that could be a big factor for them, obviously. JJ, speaking of Kennedy Washington, that's number 9 in 4A with the Warriors. In Kennedy, we have 6th in our 5A rankings, both 2-0. This is a game that won on the field, obviously a good rivalry. But the thing that I think adds to the game a little bit is the relationship between the head coaches. We've written about it before, but you've worked a lot with Mo Blue and Brian White. Used to be on the same staff together at Wash, really good friends. There's a lot of mutual respect, yet competitive edge between those two, isn't there?
Oh, for sure. And that's why I think it's a rivalry that's I don't want to say friendly, but I never really see much animosity between the players or anything on both sides. Maybe I'm wrong on that. That's got to be a reflection on the coaches. And Kyle Knock, Kennedy's offensive coordinator, is another guy that was an assistant at Wash. So I mean, that's the best of high school sports, right? When you're at rival schools, and yet your coaching staffs are friendly, and I know they call each other during the season and when they're not playing each other. And it's been a good rivalry. Washington has played Kennedy very tough, and Kennedy's kind of been the preeminent big school program here in the metro. And last year was the exception. I think, Jeff, you covered that game last year too, right? Kennedy really took it to Washington, if I remember right.
Yeah, I don't think I covered it last year. I know I covered it 2 years ago and Wash won.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. So I expect probably a pretty close game. That's not really going out on a limb, but that's what I'm going to predict.
It's weird to see them not being in the same class too, but anyway, just kind of moving forward. JJ, where are you going to be at this next week? Lindy said he's going to be at Kingston. I'm going to be down at Williamsburg. JJ, where are you going to be this week?
I'll be at Saints Field, get my first look at Xavier. Really looking forward to that. And Dubuque Wahlert, to see how legit the Golden Eagles are, and maybe try and keep a side eye on that Pilcher girl to see if she's staying out of trouble. So
Yeah, you might. I'll buy you a bag of popcorn just to kind of keep her in check. Make sure she doesn't throw too much talcum powder. I tell you what, they had a whiteout for their homecoming, and they throw baby powder up in the air. It creates a huge cloud, and I think it's become one of their traditions. And the start of the game, we could not see the scoreboard because of the baby powder cloud was so thick. But that's one I think I could do without. Not to mention they do the jump around. They do the jump around before the fourth quarter, like Wisconsin, which I think probably makes Brad Stovey's skin crawl on the sideline when that occurs. Being a Hawkeye fan, and of course, Quinn and Bryce Schulte play down in Iowa City. I believe Ethan Herkett and Jackson Rexroth are also down in Iowa City. Yep. So we have our weekly Survivor knockout picks. Do we want to go ahead and share ours before we wrap things up for this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Or do we want to mention our top five regardless of class? Do we?
Yeah, KJ, before you came on, KJ and Nathan and I were talking about kind of a high five, our top five area teams in our class with regardless of class. So go ahead, KJ. I'll let you go first.
So I'll go 5 down to 1, and
yep.
Some of this is just to stay consistent with my rankings, even though I really think I might end up reshuffling these obviously in the next week or two. But so starting out, 5, I have Iowa City High. 4, I have Williamsburg. 3, I have Cedar Rapids Kennedy. 2, I have Iowa City Liberty. And then number 1, Cedar Rapids Xavier. I almost would rather see Liberty and Kennedy above Xavier, but since I had Xavier ranked higher to begin with, and saw them last week, I have them number 1, followed by Liberty, Kennedy, Williamsburg, City High.
I just about mirror yours to the T. I got City High at 5. I got Williamsburg at 4. I got Liberty at 3, Kennedy 2, and Xavier at 1.
Yeah. And I'll get you next week.
Sounds good.
Sorry.
Yeah, we kind of sprung it at last second. That's why we kind of caught you off guard. Sorry about that.
Should we do the Survivor pool? You want to go Survivor game next, KJ?
Yeah, let's go ahead and knock that out of the way before we
all right. We're all still alive. Nathan went Northland over Bellevue. KJ, go ahead.
So this week I am going to go West Branch over Mac Valley. I'm going to go with Butch Peterson and the Bears. The Bears.
I'm going to reach down to 8 player. I haven't done 8 player yet. Gladbrook, I'm back over Dunkerton.
Boom.
Okay.
Would you consider that?
Very happy.
That's why I did it.
Hey, JJ, would you consider that?
What's that?
Would you consider that a slam dunk, Erton?
I'll get Mount Vernon over Tipton.
That seems like a very, very good choice for this week. So, all right. Any parting shots? Any last words? Great advice? Dinner recipes? Anything like that before we sign off?
Let's kick it off, baby. Let's go.
I'm good with that.
All right. So for the pair of Jeffs, our producer, Nathan Ford, and his lovely cat, Rebecca, Becky. Becky with the good hair for those in the know. I'm KJ Pilcher. We look forward to seeing you out. Please say hi if you see us at the games. Make sure to follow us at thegazette.com, iowaprepsports.com. Follow Jeff Johnson at JEJE66 on Twitter. It's at JT Linder as well, at Nathan T. Ford as well on Twitter, and I'm at KJ Pilcher. Thanks for watching, everybody. And does somebody else want to hit the line since I'm leading the show?
No, it's your line.
All right. Well, you heard him.
Man.
Keep your head on a swivel. Thanks for watching.